Could you please introduce yourself one more time?
Yeah. My name is Victoria and I came from Italy. I'm living in Korea since 3 years ago, first for traveling, and then I found a job and I stay here. So far, 3 years.
How do you find your stay in Korea?
I have a different experience because I started traveling and has a mainly tourist and just like to know the culture
I see.
at first. So it was really enjoyable to me, and life in Korea is really different from Italy, my home country, and also the size of the city is totally different from my own town. So for me, it was really fun.
I see.
Then I had the kind of middle period in which I was searching for a job, so it was more stressing, and then I started yeah, and then also the job experience, it's kind of up and down. So also I have different perspective with different type of visa.
So first you came on a tourist visa, right?
It was a H1, so working
H1.
holiday.
Working holiday?
Yeah, it's
Uh-huh.
working holiday visa, so you can just do part-time jobs.
Mhm.
And you can do whatever you want, actually.
Was it hard to find a job on H1 visa? How was it?
Actually, no, because unless you want to do professional jobs that you cannot do for visa regulation, you have to just respect the hours. They're kind of less, but you have the time in that way to visit and travel at the same time and working a little bit so you can sustain the life. But finding was not really difficult.
Many people who are on a student visa, for example, we have strict regulations on the working hours and stuff. Some employers even they know they can hire person with a D2 visa, but still they don't want to go through the documentation and stuff. So this wasn't a problem for you at all.
No, because it was not like for adding a visa. The visa H1 I already got, and I just like you can also do actually like some restaurant job, but I didn't search because I found right away this one.
I see.
That was kind of fun.
So before you came to Korea, you didn't know any Korean, right?
Just the basic
Basic.
Korean, like I have some words or like a really basic grammar, but then of course when you come here, it's oh my god, there are no subtitles because there's too fast and your level is too low. So it's even though I knew the basis, it's basically knowing nothing.
Right. So you studied in Sugan in language school.
Yeah.
Right?
I think it's really useful for who's a little bit
more advanced.
No, it's actually to unlock your language abilities, like the Maragi, mainly because at Sogan University, I think they're really focused in speaking. So from the first levels, maybe we did also grammar and vocabulary, but mainly speaking. Also, it was never just 듣기, it was 듣기 말하기 or Suki 말하기. So it was always trying, anyways, even if you don't know, try to speak.
Wow.
So
that's a good approach.
Yeah, it's really helpful, I think. For me, at least, also when I was learning English, like in the high school, the most difficult part was speaking because I was afraid to make mistakes. So they force you to try. So I think it's good.
But how did you find the process of applying, looking for the right language school?
On the site is well explained. So I didn't have many difficulties, and there are also some contacts from the school, so you can easily like ask some questions. So to me, it was not that hard.
After you learned some language, then you decided to look for a more professional job, right?
At first, I wanted to relax a little bit because, of course, if you have Alpha Day, the class, and Alpha Day, you do the Alba, then I didn't have any time to study anymore or to travel. So I decided to like have a break from the study and maybe just study a little bit just by myself and travel a little bit more. Even also because I didn't know actually if I could find a job or not.
Right.
So I said, if I can find, okay, I have all the time. But if I don't find, I should visit more. Or I go to Italy with some regrets because I work
Right.
for 1 year and I didn't travel enough. So first 6 months I decided to study and to travel and to work. And then after that I said, okay, now what I want to do after 1 year, like when the year finish, you say, okay, what's my purpose now?
I see.
For the new year, and I decided to try to find a job. So when I found, I changed the visa and
That's great.
everything going on.
How did you find this whole traveling sector in Korea?
I already knew some Korean, so I had kind of an advantage.
I see.
If someone doesn't know Korean at all, maybe it might be challenging because also the application also to use to travel here are in Korean, like Naver Map or Google Map, that some foreigner they don't even know that they exist.
Oh, I see.
Maybe nowadays that Korea is becoming more popular, there are also more videos and explanation about traveling in Korea. But when I arrived, maybe less.
I see.
Also just 3 years ago was less popular than now, I guess.
I see.
I see more and more foreigners now than.
Where did you go to travel? Maybe it was Busan or Jeju?
Here and there, everywhere. So Jeju, Busan, Suwon, Gyeongju. Okay. I mean, also Incheon and Sokjok and Yangyang. I mean, some here and there. But for me, I guess Jeju was the best one.
I see.
Yeah. Not spoiled, but for example, when I arrived the first day, I went there alone. I was in a solo trip, so when I arrived, it was late. It was already dark, and I couldn't find a place, and there was no one.
I see.
So that was hard. And also the person in charge was not replying. That can happen even if it's not Korean. But when I called, it couldn't speak in English, so it couldn't explain where to go precisely, and I couldn't understand really well. So might happen some of these cases, but I think I'm kind of adapting person. So despite it was dark and I was lost, the other part of the trip and the travels was not difficult to me.
I see. What do you do in your free time, like in Seoul, or in general when you have holidays, maybe?
I like that in Korea there are a lot of places you can go and do activities. So, for example, yesterday I went to a drawing cafe, or there are painting cafe, or themed cafe. I love cafes. Or a lot of exhibition places. There are also in our countries, of course, in Europe, but for foreigners, maybe here is more special because it's different.
I see.
And there are a lot of pop-up stores and funny things to do. So I usually go out and go here and there.
How did you find the job seeking process? Because to me it was very stressful.
It's hard.
Yeah, I can relate.
Yeah, it's really hard because I'm not enough fluent in Korean. So, of course, if you're almost native, maybe it's easier. But if I'm level 3 as well, and then maybe a little bit more just because I lived here and I use the language, but I didn't study more than level 3. So it's okay, but they require more.
I see.
Or at least they think it's okay, but then, of course, at work, the language that you use is more difficult and complicated and specific. So a lot of people, they reject because of the language, or they hire you, and then there might be some problems. So it ended up that I feel guilty because of the language barrier or the misunderstanding sometimes. But the finding process.
Which sites did you use?
Saramin or these kind of things.
How do you find them?
Not accessible for
Right?
for foreigners. And also, I don't know, in my experience, there are people that in the office can speak English but refuse to speak it.
Yeah.
So I understand that we should speak in Korean,
Right.
and that's obvious. But if there is a misunderstanding, sometimes if you use English, I can understand right away and then fix it.
Right.
But sometimes they don't do this step forward for helping you.
Do you think it's discrimination against foreigners, or the person just feels uncomfortable with his level of English?
I guess it may be both. In some cases one, in some cases the other. Or I think also in general, this is just a general idea, but Korean people are kind of shy. So they tend to don't speak English because they don't want to make mistakes, or they think they cannot speak. But for example, my 팀장 now, I know he can speak English because during the interview I talked to him some words in English and he understood and replied. But at work he never speak in English.
That's a big
problem.
all.
So sometimes it's kind of hard because the matter that I'm doing is more like engineering, so mechanical and architectural stuff. That is really difficult, and I didn't study in Korean to do it. So it may be helping, or if it could like explain some basic like terms and stuff in English, but it's everything in Korean, and I have to understand it in Korean.
Okay, how do you find the working culture in Korea?
It really depends on the field. In Italy as well. There, and also the city actually, like in the part of Italy. There is some work that are more like a good pace, and in architecture it's not like this. So I'm used to hard work and work overtime and everything. But here I have two different experiences because I worked in two different offices. So last year it was a small office. We were eight people, around 8 people, included the boss, 대표 소장님 and 소장님. And now I'm in a bigger company. We're like over 50 people.
I see.
So the small company, I don't know if it's a rule or if it's just like this case, but a small company, there was too much work, no time, a lot of overwork not paid.
I see.
It was a really bad experience to me for so many like aspects. But now the pace is really slow, and you have a lot of time, even too much to me.
I see.
I almost never overworked, and if there is some overwork is paid. So it's totally opposite. It really depends on maybe the field, and also if you're lucky or not. Last year I was not lucky. This year a little bit more. So
that's great. Congratulations.
I guess it's 50-50.
I see. How about Hoshik?
I heard it too, but also in my case last year they were not doing Hoshik. We just did maybe with the a couple, with just the younger ones. So it was more hanging out than actually Hoshik. And now we did just one in almost 7 months, and it was fun, but nothing like not forcing anyone to drink.
Okay, that's great.
I guess it's also like the older generation that were doing more like these obligations. I don't know how to say it. But nowadays I hear from most of also my friends working in other companies that it's less strong Hoshik.
I see. That's great.
Yeah, it's better.
How did you find your housing in general in Korea?
For the last 2 years, I was living in a personal house, and I went to many budongsan, so many budongsan. I just learned how to explain the thing that I need.
I see.
And it's difficult because of course you're a foreigner, so they try to charge more. or they try to omit some stuff, some
Right.
important things. But every time you go, it's the second time I change a house with the Pudongsan. So every time you learn some new thing to be careful of, and the more they found things to, how to say, screw you.
I see.
But the house, like the size of the house, it's not super huge, but it's a 1.5 room.
Okay.
So the current one is not 2 room, but it's kind of separated by a sliding door.
I see.
So it's kind of decent measure, but it's kind of like old building, I think, compared with my home country. And I think they don't care that much about the house.
That's true.
That right? It's just they do the minimum possible, and they don't really care about the house. I don't know if it's because it's not visible to the other people, so they care more about the appearance, and the house is not something that you can show off. But yeah, they care more about the cars and clothes, but the house is just somewhere you put your stuff and then you go out and you go to work. So the house is like so and so, but also if I compare the prices with my country, Italy is really expensive. Also go out for dinner is really expensive, and the house is so expensive. So compared to Italian lifestyle, to me, Korea is kind of not cheap but affordable to me, in my experience. Of course, it depends if you want to do a bougie life or have a lot of expensive dinners, or if you're just normal and you you live normal life. You go out for some lunch and dinner, and you go out. Sometimes it's totally affordable to me.
I see. How do you find food in Korea?
I like it.
I like it.
I love it. I like meat, and surprisingly, the Korean food is based on meat. Also, there are things, but a lot of variety in meat and chicken and stew, and so I really like it. And if you adapt a little bit with the spicy, you can eat basically everything.
I see.
So I love it.
So no preference to food. Everything is good.
I like it. I love it. Except some like weird stuff, like maybe chicken feet or sundae. These kind of things that it's just that I don't even know if I like it or not. But it's more if I see it, it's weird to me. So I cannot try.
Maybe there's something you really hate about living in Korea or really like.
Okay, that I really like is security.
Security.
This is actually something that you might not do, but in the past, last year, I was in another house and the locker was broken. And I basically lived for 1 month with the door open when it was going out.
Wow.
And no one opened my door. No one stole everything.
That's great.
So that's something that you should not do anyways. But in Italy, it would never happen.
I see.
Even if it's closed, someone can come into your house when you're inside.
That's crazy.
I was not at home and no one came in. So it's crazy, yes. And also, I don't feel uncomfortable going out in the late night and walking in the street alone. So for me, it's a super plus point. I feel safe.